This week in games, Embracer lays off 17,000 people. The US blocks the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And we break down the gameplay demos for Assassin's Creed, Star Wars, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. All this and more on the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 152. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hello. I think I said this last time, but we didn't do anything for the 150th episode, did we?
You did say this last time, and no, we didn't. I didn't think there was anything like it was like cool 150, but we've been doing this for a little while now, so
we have been.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Hundreds, quite literally hundreds of hours we've been doing this podcast. You know what I mean, Connor?
200. Probably like more than, well.
It's probably in closing on 200. Because, not every episode breaks an hour, but a lot of them go way over an hour because we attach reviews to the end of them and so forth. So it's hard to judge. Someone somewhere could do the math. There's probably I could probably look at the playlist and see how many hours there are in the playlist.
YouTube's just so advanced that way.
Yeah. I look at YouTube, the first thing I think is advanced.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any way to see that information. I don't know if there is.
Oh, well.
Almost 3 years ago. Let me check the actual date of that first one, because I always forget. Shut up. Video on my phone. Shut up. July 27th. We're getting close to year 3, Connor. Getting close.
Yeah, year 3 that sounds reasonable. Well,
I guess we're in year 3 now, but almost completing our 3rd year of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Wonder how much longer.
All right, I can't seem to find that data, but that doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, every week, me and Connor come to you. We bring you the new news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with 2 topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and we don't do that. Don't do that.
It's not actually a pimple. That was the joke. It's just a red spot.
For audio listeners, Connor's leaned into the camera showing what looked like a pimple and was squeezing on it, making it look like it was popping it or something. It was absolutely disgusting. Connor, don't do that. We're gonna need to put a graphic warning or blue out camera or something. Yeah, don't be nasty on camera.
It's the human body. Everyone has them.
You see, Connor, here's the thing, man, is you are just a freak of a human being. Just an absolute monstrosity of atoms that come together and form just a monster of what we would call a being on this earth. One in 10 billion, Connor. That's you right there. That's right, 10 billion, more than humans, because I don't even know how we even classify you as a human.
Dude, there's way worse. I don't have a scat fetish or anything like that, so I'm already I'm not in the bottom weird section of people. It's a little of a character assassination test.
All I'm saying is we do or do not have any evidence that you were grown in a test tube in a lab somewhere.
That's true.
We may or may not have evidence of that. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to you with 2 topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. You can catch us every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. You can also catch us live on Mondays with Phil, good friend of the show, who comes on and reviews games with us, often with our video game book club, which I'll talk about in a minute. But he goes live every Monday with some gameplay in case you want to see some gamers have some real gaming moments. Twitch.tv/2pennygames. We also are quite active on the YouTube Shorts and TikTok. TikTok is 2 Penny Games, all spelled out. Links down in the description below. Connor is now editing news stories into TikToks, and he's doing a great job. Go show support to his most recent one of our Starfield gameplay impressions from the Xbox Showcase. Go check that one out. That was a fantastic video. Congratulations, Connor, on the hard work right there.
Thank you.
It's paying off, my friend.
Yeah, it's It's a thing to edit TikToks / shorts.
It takes a little bit of work, right? Like
It does. It's actually pretty enjoyable getting into the nitty of what exactly should be in there, what I need to cut, because I have to make tons of cuts.
Yeah,
but
tons of cuts.
It's nice to do it. I'm so thankful that I don't have to do it to the degree that you do it. So thank you.
I mean, it's off and on. We got a lot of other TikToks up right now. The Street Fighter 6 review from fighting game veteran Connor is live right now on the channel. Go check that one out. The Street Fighter 6 review of the new amateur player, first time fighting game player, that's me, is up on the channel right now. Go check that out to see how we felt about Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16 to come in a couple of weeks, and of course a review shortly after that of Yakuza 0, which we are playing for the Two Penny Game Club, our monthly video game book club in which me, Connor, and Phil, we all sit down in the background and play a game off camera in order to come to you and give you a modern review. This could be any game decided by a huge spinning wheel that picks a game at random for us. This month we drew Yakuza 0, so we're playing that right now. Check that out when it comes. And then we also rank it amongst every other video game we've played on the Game Club. Just for funsies. Just to decide the greatest video games of all time and where they lay amongst each other. Connor, how do you feel about the list as it is so far? We are now 13 games in, I believe.
Yes, we are. I'm pretty up and up on the list. Most of the things are in the positions I would put them in if I was doing my own list. One thing that I was thinking of this week, and you brought it up before, which is when we're inevitably going to get to, at some point, Metal Gear Solid 3, and I was thinking to myself, Tavin's going to be upset during that episode, because I don't think it's going to rank as high as he wants it to.
Yes. So, yeah, where we are with those lists, with that list right now, is that we are starting to see the formation of tiers in that list. And I think the middle tier is the biggest of them, where, like, these are really good games. You should play all these games, absolutely. And then the top tier is, like, and I'm talking the top 3 right now, really. Maybe top four, because of Portal 2, which we did last month? Month before? Month before.
Last month, last
month. Top tier, those 4 games, those are, like, S tier, the best that the medium can offer, this, that, and the third. And then the bottom tier are, like, these are, so far, we're like, these are quality games, but, like, you don't have to go rush out and play them. And there's, like, maybe 2 or 3 games in that category as well. Most of them, so far, of the 13 games we played, are like, hey, these are really good games, go play them.
I would say the middle tier begins, at least for me, is Halo. Halo is when you start getting into, okay, this is...
From bottom
This
up.
is some quality. Yeah.
Yeah. I think... Is Uncharted below or above Halo right now?
Below.
I think it's below, right? Yeah. I think that's appropriate. Halo, and then up to Dishonored. Are we putting Dishonored in the S tier, or are we putting it in the like just the middle tier?
It's like upper. It's middle. If we were to make a tier list, the A, B, C, D, it would be in the upper. Like it'd be like in the B or A, I would say.
Yeah. It's the top of that tier, clearly, because. We just said everything above that is the S tier stuff. But yeah.
And Chrono Trigger alongside it, I would argue.
Yeah. Listen, we've played some great games. Go check out those reviews. Go check out those games and tell us how you feel about all of that. There's a great playlist of it all. I'm sure it's going to be really fun to listen through once we're, 100 games deep or whatever. You've got it all listed right there. Yeah. Anyways,
right there already.
That's something for the video viewers. If you want to know what the list stands, go check out the latest review of Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, or check out this video and, cut to about 9 minutes in. And you can see a quick flash of it on screen from Connor's Notes app. There we go.
Reversed as well, of course.
No, it was good.
Oh, it was? Oh,
yeah,
I'm
it was good.
on my
Discord
screen.
Discord flips it correctly for everybody at home. So, or everybody watching you. So, anyways, or maybe I have you flipped. I don't know. You know what? It looked good. Is the point. Connor, enough of the vamping. Let's get into the news today. Let's get into our first topic. Your first penny, please take it away, sir.
Well, we have an article here from Gematsu by Sal Romano. Embracer Group announces large-scale restructuring program, including layoffs, studio closures, and game cancellations. An open letter from Embracer Group CEO Lars Wingfors. Embracer Group has announced a large-scale restructuring program focused on cost savings, capital allocation, efficiency, and consolidation, which will include staff layoffs, studio closures, or divestments, and game project cancellations or suspensions. The restructuring program is divided into different phases until March 2024. The initial phase, which has already begun, mainly targets cost savings across the group. The next phase, which has also begun, still requires further analysis to determine specific actions. The final phase will focus on internal consolidation, further resource utilization, and increased synergy within Embracer Group. Actions will cover, but are not limited to, Matthew Karch, appointed Interim Chief Operating Officer, and Phil Rogers, appointed Interim Chief Strategy Officer, to co-lead the program planning and implementation, reduction to general overhead, corporate, publishing, and selling, general and administrative expenses costs, the closing of studios and termination of projects that have not yet been announced and with low projected returns, creation of a more comprehensive centralized process for game investment and progress review while maintaining creative freedom, consolidation of companies and businesses, including review of operative group structures, reduction of investments into external development with greater focus on internal development based on owner or controlled intellectual property, increased external funding of internally developed large budget games, renewed focus on the group's main business areas, implementing a centralized and standardized, more data-driven and precise approach to game forecasting. Here's the full open letter from Embracer Group Lars Wingefors. Everyone, this morning we announced a restructuring program across the Embracer Group that will make us a leaner, stronger, and more focused, self-sufficient company. I want to share some background and context to this decision and what it means for us going forward. During the past years, Embracer invested significantly both in acquisitions and into a strategy of accelerated organic growth. We have acquired some of the world's leading entertainment IP, and we have invested into one of the largest pipelines of games across the industry. The program presented today will transform us from our current heavy investment mode to a highly cash flow generative business this year. It will enable us to meet the worsening economy and market reality as a strong company, and it will fundamentally change our prioritization of growth with raised capital towards optimization and growth based on our own cash flows. The program will lower our net debt significantly. After completion of this program, we will generate growth and profitability with less business risk and higher margins in the PC/console segment over the coming years. This in turn will give us the freedom to continue to grow and deliver the high quality experiences our players really value. This program is divided into different phases until March 2024, with focus on cost savings, capital allocation, efficiency, and consolidation. The initial phase, which is initiated immediately, mainly targets cost savings across the group. The next phase, which also starts immediately, will require further analysis to determine specific actions. The last phase will focus on internal consolidation, further resource utilization, and more synergies across the group. The actions for each affected company will be implemented by the new interim COO and CSO in collaboration with each operative group CEO and management teams. Embracer currently engages close to 17,000 people, and while that number will be lower by the end of the year, it is too early to give an exact forecast of this. This letter goes on for quite a while.
It does. I think that's the good stuff about it. I do want to jump closer to the end. I want to thank all of our industry partners that reached out in the past weeks and expressed their respect for Embracer and their desire to do more business with us, whether big, small, or transformative on our journey forward. As one of the largest content providers in the industry, this is the everyday business we should continue to increase. I see this as an acknowledgement of how important our people, games, and IPs are for wider gaming ecosystem. And basically what all of this is, and then at the end here, I'm proud of what we have built over the past years, and we should acknowledge that we are heading into a solid year with many amazing releases such as Remnant 2, Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, Payday 3, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged, Arizona Sunshine 2, Alone in the Dark, Homeworld 3, and many, many others. Our financial year started with one of our greatest successes so far, Dead Island 2, which exceeded our management's already high expectations. Embracer was founded on the values of trust, a long-term mindset, and a desire to embrace different perspectives. As difficult as some of the decisions we will take over the coming weeks and months will be, we are doing this because we are confident that we will emerge a stronger, more efficient company, setting out on a stable future to build an even greater value across our many studios. To build even greater value across our many studios and fantastic portfolio of IPs. Thank you all, Lars Wingefors, Group CEO, Embracer Group.
Now,
So go ahead, take it away.
I'll just point it out here. The thing that's not focused on in this open letter that we covered on this show recently was that there was an attempted acquisition of some company. We don't know what it is, but it was a $2 billion deal that fell through.
Was it an acquisition or just a deal? I thought it was just a deal of some kind, some type of something. I was under the impression that they were trying to.
It was a deal.
Yeah, they were trying to strike a contract with, who knows, a Marvel Games, a Disney, an Amazon, something to do something big.
Yeah, that part of the details are vague, and we'll probably never find out who it was. But the fact of the matter is that that seems to be a direct correlation.
The Jason Schreiers are figuring it out.
They might eventually. Someone may speak at some point who was, knowledgeable of the deal and just kind of privately say, okay, it was these guys. Not that it matters anymore, because it failed. And it seems like they were, getting ready to step up to bat with this deal. And now that it fell through, any preconceived plans that they originally had just aren't going to hold much weight anymore. And this is the fallout of that. So it's not exactly clear what's going to happen as a result of this restructuring program. Obviously, layoffs are always talked about, and it's going to be what I feel inevitable. But it's not as some cases that we've seen in the past where this is just simply unfortunate business decisions that didn't pan out, and sometimes you just have to lay off things and cancel plans that you had made originally, and that's just the name of the game. That's how, when you're dealing with these large gaming companies, deals like this can really, especially for games that take years to develop and they have to prepare to do them, when something goes awry, especially something as major as this is just the logical fallout that occurs afterwards.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Especially with that last bit of these games take a long time to cook. I believe it was Matt Booty of Xbox who said this week, most AAA games these days take close to a decade to develop from conception to release. It takes, about 7, 8, 9 years for all of this to come out, because there's a lot of things in the background that we as the audience just don't see. Which is probably why we see a lot of games get announced mad early, and then, we don't hear about them for years, because it just takes time to make these games at this scale. And Embracer has been a interesting and slightly concerning publisher to watch, because they've spent a lot of time and money, like Microsoft, acquiring a bunch of studios, acquiring a bunch of IP, acquiring just a bunch of different propositions, and it's been like moderate success. Like, they've been a huge growing publisher in the space, but it hasn't been for like the bangers of games. Like, they haven't put out a banger. I mean, just, jumping down to that final paragraph, or second to last paragraph I was reading: Remnant 2, Warhammer 40K, Payday, Hot Wheels, Arizona Sunshine, Alone in the Dark, Homeworld, Dead Island. These are not games that you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait. Connor, look it up for me, but I'm pretty sure they did the Kingdoms of Amalur, or published the Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning remake, or whatever that was.
It's Amalur, you nerd.
Okay. And it was like, yep, this is that game again. So like, they've been the AA tier, the B tier, or even like, the C tier level of game publishing, but they've gotten their hands on some huge IPs, most recently Tomb Raider, and have been, I think, have they been? No, they have not been working with Amazon with Lord of the Rings, right? Or do I have that wrong too? See, it's so hard to keep track of these things, because they were clearly shooting for bigger fish, and they were putting their all behind whatever that big deal was that fell through in the last couple of weeks that we talked about on the podcast, and it fell through. That sucks. Their entire business strategy was clearly centered around that plan, and now they have to re-strategize and refigure things out. And unfortunately, as Connor said, the little guy gets punished for that, and we lose, what was it, 17,000 jobs off of it, and a huge restructuring. Everybody gets new job titles, management gets shifted around as we figure out where to go next with Embracer Group. And it just looks like we are just going to be on the back foot with these guys for a little while, and they are looking to get back to that growth that they've been shooting for years. But they've taken a huge step backwards because of this.
Yeah, and they do own Kingdoms of Valimar, Time Splitters as well. They acquired those IPs.
Is it that? I would have sworn it's Kingdoms of Amalur or something like that.
It's Amalur, but I thought it was always pronounced Amalur. But Amalur, maybe I'm wrong.
Just the people I'm listening to always say Amalur, but maybe who knows? Who cares, right? Also, like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly. Well, I care. Pronunciation is important, Tavin. That's how language works. You have to be able to pronounce things to know what words are being said. Did you know that? It's interesting. What I know I said earlier, this is just what happens when deals go through and you plan things up and they don't pan out. But at the same time, this is a good showcase of the criticism of a single company owning all of these different types of studios, because one bad business deal that they do then screws over all of these studios that, if they were by themselves, though they might not have as much funding due to Embracer Group not owning them, they would at least not have to worry about things like this just completely out of their control, screwing people out of not only their jobs, but also the things that they're creating. Because who knows what games are now never going to see the light of day that we could have otherwise got if it just wasn't for this. Because they might try to, consolidate things and know which ones are the best thing to keep and which one's the best to throw away. But it doesn't mean that they're right. I mean, they've obviously messed up on this deal. They could be throwing away some good stuff just because they messed up.
I'm with you on that, but to just counter that as well, the security that comes with acquisitions of these major publishers, excuse me so much, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The security that comes with this allows the success of other projects to keep, the success of one project could keep another one afloat or keep another studio afloat. Lord alive. It's that bubbly, that orange cream right here, that orange cream bubbly. Connor, I know you partake in the sparkly water as well. What do you have one with you right now? Or
Seltzer, actually.
Oh, you like the seltzers?
I do, but same thing.
Is a seltzer not an alcoholic version?
No.
No.
Seltzer is like used in alcohol in certain drinks, but it's also just on its own. It's like carbonation without any of the sweetness, like sugars added.
Yeah, and see, that's what I like about this this orange cream bubbly, is it's very sweet, but no sugar. So I feel like I'm cheating. You know what I mean?
It's always good to find your little treat drink.
It is very nice. It's very nice, and still try and be healthy. Anyways, what was I saying? The success of one project could help another studio or some forth. They make a point at the end of the article to say Dead Island 2 exceeded their already high expectations. I don't know how high their expectations for Dead Island 2 was, but that game did have more success than I think anybody was expecting. It sold fairly well. And didn't review as awfully as I personally thought it was going to, which really hurts me in my fantasy draft. But the success of that game, I'm sure, is one, probably keeping that studio alive, and two, is helping to mitigate the damage that $2 billion deal cost Embracer, which is always a benefit. And you see this across the board with other publishers and other studios as well. Redfall flopped pretty hard. Not a lot of people seem to have bought into it. It did not review well, and I'm sure Microsoft in some form will feel the sting of that. But other successes, say, Age of Empires 2, say the upcoming Starfield, which is looking to be quite impressive, will help to mitigate those damages and keep everybody sort of afloat. And you might be able to be like, oh, well, Redfall flopped, so Arcane Austin's next game isn't going to get as much budget because, they didn't meet certain internal parameters that we wanted. But if Starfield becomes game of the generation, sells 1 billion copies, makes billions of dollars, and this, that, and the third, well, then they're like, all right, well, we got all this excess from what Starfield did. Here, Arcane, here's some actually extra budget so that you can meet that top tier games that we know you're capable of. Or here, the Ghostwire Tokyo guys who just did Hi-Fi Rush.
Not Ninja Theory.
Tango Gameworks. That's it.
Gameworks.
Tango Gameworks. Hey, Hi-Fi Rush was a success critically. It did okay in sales, but it didn't, set the world on fire in terms of sales and a lot of Game Pass usage and all that. But Starfield did great. Forza's gonna do great. here's some extra budget. Hey, make another Hi-Fi Rush. Make Hi-Fi Rush 2 and blow it up and make it this fully AAA $70 experience. These are the risks and rewards that you manage with large publishers and being acquired and things like that. So, you know, a Double Fine game, for example, like the Psychonauts 2s of the world. Like those games don't set the world on fire, but they do just well enough and to help support the big guys, and in turn when the big guys come out, that helps support the little guys.
Well, we'll see if they actually do anything with this restructuring and they actually start putting out, you know, like high quality games again. But who knows?
I mean, we won't feel these effects for 5, 10, 15 years. So it's going to be an interesting conversation as we see either the rebound of Embracer Group or the slow, painful death of it. So we're going to find out. But, you know, we're all going to be 30, 40, 50 years old by the time we see what happens. So moving on to topic number 2, your second penny of the day. Connor, go ahead, take it away with what we've got going on next.
Well, we got an article here from The Guardian by, I didn't read the name, I apologize, Staff and Agencies. Very good writer, that Staff and Agencies. Activision Blizzard. U.S. judge blocks takeover by Microsoft until further hearings. The Federal Trade Commission secures delay of $69 billion deal, which it argues would be anti-competitive. A U.S. district judge has granted the Federal Trade Commission's request to temporarily block Microsoft's $69 billion buyout of video game maker Activision Blizzard and set a hearing next week. Microsoft's bid to acquire the Call of Duty video game maker has been approved by the EU, but blocked by British competition authorities, while the FTC, a US authority, has argued the transaction would give Microsoft's video game console Xbox exclusive access to Activision games, leaving Nintendo consoles and Sony's PlayStation out in the cold. Microsoft has said the deal would benefit gamers and gaming companies alike and has offered to sign a legally binding consent decree with the FTC to provide Call of Duty games to rivals, including Sony, for a decade. On Tuesday, Judge Edward Davila scheduled a 2-day evidentiary hearing on the FTC's request for a preliminary injunction for the 22nd and 23rd of June in San Francisco. Without a court order, Microsoft could have closed on the deal as early as Friday. The FTC, which enforces antitrust laws, asked an administrative judge to block the transaction in early December. An evidential hearing in the administrative proceedings is due to begin 2nd of August. Based on the late June hearing, the federal court will decide whether a preliminary injunction, which would last during the administrative review of the case, is necessary. Microsoft and Activision must submit legal arguments opposing a preliminary injunction by 16th of June. The FTC must reply on the 20th of June. Activision said on Monday that the FTC decision to seek a federal court order was, quote, a welcome update and one that accelerates the legal process, end quote. On Tuesday, it declined to comment. Microsoft said on Tuesday that, quote, accelerating the legal process in the U.S. will ultimately bring more choice and competition to the gaming market. A temporary restraining order makes sense until we can receive a decision from the court, which is moving swiftly. The FTC declined to comment. Well, this thing cannot go through.
No, it can't. I mean, Microsoft also had a comment saying that they were confident and more than willing to talk about this deal and their hearing and so forth. So Microsoft's still feeling confident. It's just annoying that we have to keep fucking talking about it. We just keep going through what feels like the same conversation cycle again and again and again on this topic. And I honestly would just rather, like, at this point, I don't care anymore.
I just want it to have a decision made.
Yeah.
It'd be funny to see Activision Blizzard fail, like they always do nowadays. But it'd also be good to see them succeed in this deal so they can just not be filled with sexual harassers. It'd be very nice.
Ideally,
or
hopefully.
Sexual harassing apologists, at the very least.
So yeah, and now it's just a matter of like, all right, let's go through this legal process here too, just so that we can get through it. We were so close to just not be, or just being able to move past it and get a new conversation started amongst it all. But if this is what we got to do, this is what we got to do. So here we go. Personally, all right, let's just wait to see how this comes out. And I imagine I still imagine this is going to work for Activision Blizzard. But in the case that it doesn't, the US is such a big market for this acquisition specifically that it's like, oh, if you lose the US, it's just not worth doing this deal. Like, you could get around the UK, but the EU is still good, so most of Europe you're still fine. So even if you lost the UK, like, and you just couldn't sell Activision Blizzard games over there, oh well, big deal. But Call of Duty sales in America are necessary, so you need to release Call of Duty in America here, because that's a big chunk of your clientele. Not to mention all your other ones such as World of Warcraft, StarCraft, what is the other one? Oh, Overwatch, I guess. We'll find out. Even though Overwatch just today said they're delaying the thing they just announced in whatever showcase they showed up in last week.
Something they announced, but it originally said that wasn't going to be in the game.
Well, remember, it's like they were going to do like a full campaign. They've canceled the full campaign, but they're still going to have their little like events and PvE game modes, which are way less interesting than what was promised, but now they're delaying those. It's just a mess over there at Overwatch 2, an absolute mess. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen if Microsoft does end up acquiring it all, but this one I feel is a make or break, but I don't think Microsoft is in actual trouble here.
Well, we'll see. Once they rule on it, well, they might be sweating a little bit more, because just fate doesn't want them to let this go through. Clearly.
Connor, moving on to topic number 3. I'm not even going to take the time code because I have to edit that little flub. Connor, moving on to topic number 3. My first penny of the day. Capcom and Ubisoft both had their showcases. Ubisoft in the form of Ubisoft Forward 2023, the Capcom Showcase 2023. We have reaction videos to both of these up on the channel right now. Connor, you missed out on the Ubisoft Forward, but you did catch up on the gameplay things that were shown for things like Assassin's Creed, Avatar, Star Wars, and Prince of Persia. I missed out on the Capcom thing. I had to work, and it sounds like I didn't miss anything at all in that one. But we will, address everything that was talked about. First, let's start with Ubisoft. I'm part of that reaction video, so I saw the whole thing. It was a train wreck. Just an absolute train wreck of a presentation. Messy, boring, very poor production quality. It was shockingly underwhelming and confusing and just very poorly put together in terms of a showcase. Now, in terms of the content of the video games shown, the industry at large seems impressed by what was shown. I personally was not. I'm actually quite hesitant to see any of these games come out, with the exception of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which I think looks awesome. But Avatar, Assassin's Creed, and Star Wars did not sell me, to varying degrees. It's a varying degree of conversation right here. So Connor, you caught up on some gameplay demos, so let's just go ahead and jump into the big ones. I want to start positive, so we're going to start with some Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Something that was announced and shown off at SGF the week before, and it looked awesome there. It was a highlight of Jeff Keighley's show when it happened last week, and I talked about it last week. And here looks even like they've just made me even more excited now. Metroidvania styled 2D platformer with the 2.5 graphic styles, 3D. I think the style of the game looks great. I think graphically it's got a great look to it overall. The platforming looks fun and solid and fluid. The combat looks really fun and exciting, and looks like you can get some sick ass combos popping off on enemies. The boss fights look great. The time travel mechanics look great. I've got nothing but praise to say for the demos or the gameplay videos that we've seen so far from Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. How are you feeling about it, sir?
Well, we at the beginning of the show, we mentioned that we do the Game Club, where we play games every single month. The most recent entry into that list was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Go and see my exact thoughts on that game, all of ours. But overall,
TikTok and YouTube Short are up now.
Plug. Platformer's not my thing. It has to do something interesting, or at least play well, be satisfying. And this game seems to be fitting into that mold. I don't like doing the generic, jumping on the heads of enemies, sometimes picking them up to throw them. I like doing this style of combat, where you're actually, pressing buttons, doing combos, fighting dynamic boss fights where you have to dodge their attacks, maybe slide under them, use some the mechanics that are being shown in this game, like manifesting platforms for small periods of time to jump on them, maybe that being implemented into the boss fights. That kind of stuff excites me, and this game does just look like it plays very satisfyingly. I'm always reminded of games like The Messenger, Dead Cells, games that kind of play like that. It embodies that to a certain degree. So I'm actually pretty high on this game, more than I thought I would, because I'm not like you who played Prince of Persia back in the day. I was not the Prince of Persia fan. So being a first entry into that game series, it's catches my attention. A great.
Well,
deal.
this is different, of course.
It's different.
I played the 3D platformer trilogy on PlayStation 2, which all three of those games play kind of different from each other. And I've recently revisited the first game, and it doesn't hold up. But it was fun for the time. And the second one had a confusing, like, emo, dark, grungy style to it. And the third one kind of met in the middle a little bit with some cool combat and so forth. And so this being going back to the 2D roots of the old Prince of Persia, which I've never fully played, is going to be new and exciting for me as well. I'm just excited to have something cool and interesting come from the IP. I'm just a Prince of Persia fan from those 3D days, but I'm not looking forward to the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. But this here, as you said, it just looks like a lot of fun, man. It looks like great gameplay, great use of mechanics, really fun boss fights. If it's just got like a entertaining story or something that just kind of, gives me narrative purpose in going through it all, that works fine for me. It doesn't need to have that, though, because it looks like the combat and the gameplay and the style of the game, rewinding time and using that in your platforming to get through different areas in different ways, that alone looks like it's going to be awesome. Connor, I think you should explore Metroidvanias more. Really from what I garnered from what you were talking there.
Yeah, platformers are obviously Metroidvanias are platformers. They're just a specific brand of them that I also haven't played a lot, but those are the ones I'm a lot more open to, as opposed to the Marios and the Donkey Kongs and the Crash Bandicoots of the world.
Yeah. So yeah, Prince of Persia I think looks great, and I can't wait to get it. That's coming out January 18th, that we've talked about before. Looks fantastic. Can't wait. Next, let's get into something. These next two games I can't bring myself personally to care about. The first being Avatar: The Lost Frontier. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. This straight up just looks like Far Cry with Avatar skin, and not even the most impressive Far Cry that we've seen in a while, like really copy paste type of Far Cry. Some of the more interesting things are happening, like riding on mounts and interacting with wildlife and all of that. I'm curious to see how they implement that. I liked the UI elements, but just using and like fighting the mechs, but like all of this, it just screams tried and true Far Cry Ubisoft formula. And in 2023, I'm not looking for that experience. And it's from an IP that I just don't care about. And I struggle to find anyone who really does care about this IP like that. I understand it's like the biggest IP ever with, the two movies that came out.
The roof.
But like, who cares?
One of the things that was said in the old the old Avatar, was it had no cultural staying power. It came out, made a bunch of money, broke all these records, and no one was like, they weren't really like shooters for Avatar until the second one started coming out, and then you saw them just come out of the woodwork out of nowhere. And then the movie came out, and they disappeared. The only thing staying around are the memes that were associated with it, which really can come from anywhere nowadays, so it's not the testament of the actual product. People just kind of were like, yeah, it's a good movie, and they just go on to wait for the next one. And as you said before, they're kind of doing the same thing with, just wait for the next Far Cry game, but with the Avatar twist. Which, admittedly, I do think it as far as the Far Cry games go, because the simulator is too in your face to ignore. To anybody that's played any of those games, like once you played Far Cry 3, you know what you're looking at. Far Cry 3 and 4, just to get a sense of
just a Far Cry
they
game.
Offer. Exactly. Yeah. It does do some more interesting things like the mounts, like as you said, the wildlife, and they do make it stand out from the other Far Cry's we've seen in recent years, but not in a way that seems interesting enough, as you said before. It doesn't really do anything to grab you and say this is something that's unique and interesting to play. It just seems like, oh yeah, they're just doing this to change up the formula that people expect from Far Cry games now that they have an Avatar skin to it.
You cut to the shot where it's the first person perspective and he pulls the bow and arrow out, and it like the bow is in the exact same position as it is in the Far Cry games. Like it's exactly the same. Like if you put a bunch of screenshots together from the different Far Cries and threw this one in here, the only way you'd be able to tell the difference is this guy has a blue hand. Like that's
yeah.
But I will
Especially
say,
with the gunplay.
yeah, I will. Yeah, God, the gunplay looks so like Far Cry from last generation too. I will say, in terms of an open world game like this, looks very pretty. It's a very pretty looking game so far. Lots of great use of color, great use of architecture, and how like the floating islands and the grayness that comes in as humans come in and start destroying the land and ruining all of the beauty of it. That juxtaposition of the two things is really great to see. All of the animals look great. Everything looks great. It's just that, like, from a mechanics point of view, this just looks like the same game you've been selling me for over a decade.
It's window dressing is what it is.
100%.
It's the same way Far Cry 6 looked interesting, but then people got their hands on it. They're like, yeah, this is just everything we've come to expect from a Far Cry game. Yep. And I think this is going to be the same thing, just considered a bit more unique due to those elements they're adding. Particularly, I think, the mounts. Which is, and the traversal. The traversal did seem interesting.
Well, and there does seem to be some combat abilities that thrown in there that are, like, unique to playing, I forget the race of the Avatar people.
Na'vi.
The Na'vi, yeah. You're going to have some cool, like, abilities that are unique to this game just because you can play with, being an alien and so forth and things like that. And, like, things like this air combat stuff that we're showing on screen right now, it all looks neat and entertaining, and then it immediately cuts to, hey, I'm ripping a panel off and tearing, and he just clicked in the right stick and that animation played, and then it's going to cut to a wide view of the thing transforming or so forth. Like, we've seen this a dozen times, and it's just like, all right, cool, I guess this is what we're doing, but with Avatar.
Yeah. It reminds me of another game that just seems kind of similar than something else that existed in the past. I don't know what that might be, though.
Connor, could that be Assassin's Creed Mirage just being a copy-paste of Assassin's Creed games we got over a decade ago?
Hey, but more refined.
Sure. I guess, man.
I think those old games play rougher than you'd think they would without actually getting your hands on them.
I mean, I went back and replayed them when the Ezio trilogy came out. At least I played Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and I was like, oh, yeah, these things don't hold up. And Phil recently, I believe on the Piggy Bank, has even been out and saying, yeah, man, I jumped into Assassin's Creed 2. That game doesn't look good. Like, it's ugly to look at. And he's like, yeah, and it's just really clunky to play. And, this looks like an E3 demo from literally a decade ago. I remember watching Assassin's Creed Revelations demos that looked just like this. Exactly like this. And, listen, this looks like one of the best forms of this version of Assassin's Creed we've ever seen. That's awesome. It also looks like a budget game. And I understand it was a DLC thing that got, expanded upon and turned into its own thing. Cool. But, I think this will be a wake-up call because this is what the fans wanted. They want old Assassin's Creed back, and I think this will be a wake-up call of, like, a bunch of people being like, oh, right, yeah, like, the parkour does look good, but, like, very often the AI gets confused, and I mean to go forward, but he jumps over to the left for some reason, and I don't know why. Or yeah, hey, man, this combat system's really antiquated and not really fun to play around in. And, even the new stuff they show off, like the multi-kill system, which reminds me a lot of Batman Arkham Knight's multi-takedown thing that had going on, doesn't even look as good as Arkham Knight did it in 2015. Like, how are you not matching mechanics from 8 years ago in this stealth simulator game? I appreciate the more emphasis on stealth. I enjoy seeing the assassin sneak up on a dude and stab him in the back with the hidden blade. But I also know what that feels like to play. And in 2023, this isn't going to set the world on fire. Like, it's just not going to do what it needs to do, I predict.
Yeah, going back to what you said earlier, how about this is what the fans wanted, and you want to see, you say this is going to be a wake-up call for them to be like, it's not as great as you remember. That's overall the most interesting part that I want to see about this game. I want to see what the takes are when it comes out, because I'm in agreement. I like Odyssey. I played a little bit. Well, no, that's all I played. I didn't play the other one. I just
You
played
played
Odyssey.
Little Origins, didn't you?
No. Well,
Odyssey?
yeah, I did a long while ago, but I barely remember that at all. I understand why people want to go back to the old stuff. It sucked people in with its gameplay, and then it all of a sudden changed on people, and others weren't satisfied with that. Because, Assassin's Creed is expected to play a certain way, and always when you change any kind of game up, there's going to be that dedicated fan base that are going to say, well, we don't want to play this anymore because it's not what I played these games in the first place.
I'm sure somebody wants Final Fantasy to still be turn-based, but hey, guess what?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't work on the scale that we want it to anymore.
Oh, you see a lot of discourse with people saying, like, yeah, this is an actual Final Fantasy in regards to 16. And part of that is the turn.
Oh,
both of them.
Oh, we lost you for a second there.
Oh, yeah, it's freezed on my end for a second, but I'm back. I want to see what people's take are going to be on this modern retelling of the old Assassin's Creed games, because we're not Assassin's Creed fans in that respect, where we're just we're pining for the old times. We want it back the way it was before. So it's not really. This isn't a game for us, for you and me. It's for the people that have been desiring to go back to the roots.
I grew up on these games. I was a fan of these games back in the day, and I do have some nostalgia for it. I'm not gonna lie. It does excite me. I will probably try this game out if I don't get overloaded with all the other things coming out in October. I believe this is like 3 days separated from Alan Wake 2. I'm going to be much more interested in playing, or maybe a week. It's a week separated from Alan Wake 2. I'm much more interested in Alan Wake 2 just because that one is at least playing with the genre a little bit more. Doing what Resident Evil 2 Remake did, but let's put a more detective spin on it and putting pieces of evidence together. That is more interesting to me than anything that was shown here, because this is a game from a decade ago, and I'm with you. I understand why fans want this style back. I do. I get it. I kind of want something similar to this as well. I want this stealth game where you go in and you take down bases and all this. My problem is that you need to evolve that formula in order to make it interesting in this day and age, and they're just not doing that. They're giving us a game that we've played literally at least 10 times, and it's just not enough. It's not enough. I need more from this to get excited about it. So I mean, but at the same time, this is exactly what I expected when they announced it. So I'm not gonna say I'm disappointed with what I'm seeing here. It's just that I just don't care about what I'm seeing here.
Yep. People will enjoy this game, that crowd, unless it just is broken on release.
Which you never know. I do appreciate implementing the thing from the newer games by jumping into the eagle from above and having the eagle vision, but also still having that traditional Assassin's Creed detective vision style of eagle vision. I enjoy having both of those. That's cool. I like that. And the game looks pretty. The environments look pretty, but I see the budget in it, and yeah. I don't want to see the budget, but maybe I'm being too harsh. Who knows? We'll find out come October. And then finally, I just realized I've not been pausing these videos along the way, have I?
No. That's lowering down your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, no, it's hurting me. There we go. Moving on to the final demo that was shown at the Ubisoft Forward, and something that I'm not going to say I'm down on, but I'm critical of and I'm curious about, because everybody on the internet seems to think this is going to be awesome. And that's Star Wars Outlaws. I was not impressed from what was shown in the demo, but I don't know if that's because I'm not impressed with the game, or if it was just such a choreographed and heavily manipulated demo to be like, hey, you can do this. It didn't look organic. Nothing about it looked organic. It looked like, hey, we want to craft a demo and put a demo together that shows off these systems in a very specific way. And it just didn't feel natural to me. Star Wars Outlaws looks to be some type of open world, Uncharted-esque type video game. Maybe with, the markings of a classic Ubisoft open world game. And I'm somewhat excited in some of this, but overall, it just left me a little It left me thinking, I don't know about this one. But again, it could just be because of how choreographed this demo is. Like, it just doesn't look natural. Like and so I'm curious if it was just a badly put together demo, and I'm crazy, or if the game is trying to sell us on something that it's not. And I'm curious if, or maybe my read is correct and this game just doesn't feel that great. Because, I look at like how the character moves through the world. I look at how the shooting looks like it's going to feel. I look at how the driving of the speeder looks like how it's going to feel. And I look at how the stealth mechanics seem to be working out. And none of it looks good to me. It looks not bad, but it looks bare minimum. It looks like, all right, yeah, those are stealth mechanics. Oh yeah, those are shooting mechanics, but it doesn't look like it's going to feel satisfying to play. Again, this could just be because of how the demo is constructed, and when I actually get hands on sticks, it'll be a lot better. It's a Star Wars game, so of course I'm going to play it. It's just, how good is this going to be? Is this going to be a 6 or a 7, or is this going to be an 8 or 9? We'll just have to wait to see more to find out about it next year and so forth. Some highlights of the demo: I like the character. I think the character seems fun and engaging and entertaining to listen to. I like the little pet and how the little pet can help you out and bring you weapons in combat so you can pick them up and use them against enemies and so forth. The more I think about the open world elements, the more I'm like, oh, okay, that is interesting. I like how she switches her blaster on the fly to get different effects out of that. The idea of expanding on mechanics like that is interesting. I want to see the upgrade trees and what those look like. You know what I'm saying? And I want to see how progression looks, because I think that could actually be really satisfying. It's just the core gameplay mechanics don't look satisfying. It doesn't look like it's going to feel good to play, but it does look like it's going to feel fun to role play in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, this whole game, it screams more than most I've seen recently of, I will only play this if the reviews are good. It didn't really do anything to sell me on, as you said, the gameplay. It just looks unsatisfying.
Especially coming off of Jedi Survivor, which feels great.
It feels great to play. And this one just, I want Star Wars obviously to do more things than just lightsaber fights, which are cool. They are just objectively cool. And blasters, that's when you start getting into, okay, well, these are just, at the end of the day, guns. Yeah. Guns that many other games have, so you have to do something to make them feel interesting rather than just be blasters, and it seems to be in that realm right now. It is the uniqueness comes from the fact that you're just shooting these laser weapons. And
but also the difference between, and you're coming up on it right there. I just heard you with the laser weapons. Laser weapons all kind of feel samey, whereas like when you have real guns that have like kinetic energy style bullets and so forth, like a heavy machine gun feels different than a pistol. Or a sniper rifle. You know what I'm saying? Whereas laser weapons kind of all feel the same. They just kind of shoot at different rates of fire. At which point, you kind of just pick the one with the highest rate of fire, or the one with the most damage, and that's all you really need. So that's what I need to see. But and then as we enter this cantina in the demo that we're watching right here, I kind of like the little hints at narrative things. It doesn't, or like narrative agency. It doesn't look like it's gonna be like huge breadths of differences, but it does look like, oh, hey, you can make this scenario harder or easier depending on the story choice you make in this moment. Yeah. Which I enjoy. So, it's a little bit Uncharted. It's a little bit Far Cry / Assassin's Creed. It's a little bit BioWare. I could find some fun in that. But continue. I cut you off real hard there. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I was going to go, bullets, you can do more with them. Yeah. And also, this kind of shooting experience we have in Battlefront as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not like this unique thing, and it didn't really do anything beyond just the shooting to really invest me in it. I mean, like I said, the main character seems fun. The droid companion that she has also seems like an interesting character, cool character as well. And the spaceship combat, which we'll see here in the gameplay in a second.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. That was. I remember seeing a comment on the video when I was watching it earlier this week, saying like, "Oh, it didn't have me until I saw that space combat and the space flying." And it is cool, but even that itself seemed like it kind of was just pretty generic. You speed up sometimes, you shoot weapons that just you just go, Yeah. It doesn't feel dynamic in any way, and then you just are using that just to try and like hold off enemies until you escape, because it doesn't seem like you're supposed to be in the thick of it during the flight combat, which is where you usually would get interested with it.
In the reacts, I had said that comparison of like a little bit this, a little bit that, a little bit this, and then we entered the Star Combat, and Phil chimed in and he said, "Oh, and a little bit Star Wars Squadrons." And I looked at it a little bit longer. There was a beat, and I said, "Honestly, this looks more like Lego Star Wars Space Combat," and that's about as bare bones as you can get in terms of space combat. So it's like, man, I just don't know about this. It does look a little more dynamic, a little more fluid than, say, a Lego Star Wars. But, it does, none of these gameplay pillars look very deep. And maybe, again, that's just because of the demo they showed us. I do want to give the compliment of the HUD, the stylization of the HUD. Feels very Flash Gordon, feels very kind of like Star Wars campy, the way that Star Wars can be campy in the good ways that gives it charm. That's how it kind of feels with the, wanted popped up on the screen in bright red and stuff. And you're like, that's fun. Or like the way that like mission quests like come in and have that cool stylings. If you saw the marketing for like Solo, a Star Wars story, that like logo treatment looks dope. And they put that here. And that does look dope. So this game is trying to have sort of its own identity in comparison to Jedi Survivor, which is looks very like fantasy. You know what I'm saying? Like it looks like that type of HUD styling could be in a Soulsborne game or could be in a Dragon Age game, where this one, it looks more cyberpunk-y. I'm talking the HUD specifically. It looks a little cyberpunk. It looks a little Outer Worlds, stuff like that. So I enjoy that and the color of it, and I enjoy that it's trying to make its own identity in that way. And maybe like it'll be greater than the sum of its parts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's like each individual part isn't that great, but you put a bunch of 7s together and you get a 9. It could work that way,
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of let's see how the final product comes, and I want to see more. I want to see deeper dives. I want to see a less choreographed gameplay demo,
which I don't know if we'll get.
And especially like the space combat that we saw here, right after the Starfield demo. It's just like, oof, like Starfield looks like so much more fun to fly around in and play in that universe.
And this game does not have a release date yet, correct?
I believe just next year is all they've said. Yeah, here we're showing off some of those UI elements that I was talking about, and that looks cool. I like how that looks.
It almost seems like it's leaning too forward into the fact that it's Star Wars. And a lot of that uniqueness is coming from the fact it's Star Wars, and it's not the same lightsaber stuff we've been desiring, which is good, but
the look of it doesn't match the look of gameplay. Like the look of the game, they look like they're elements from two different games, like mashed together.
Even as you brought up Starfield, I mean, we're going to be coming off the back of that, which if it does deliver on the promises it has of space exploration, jumping into this, you might be like, oh, another space exploration game. Well, maybe I don't really want to spend time with it now that I've just gotten off Starfield.
This is also coming from Ubisoft Massive, who did the Divisions 1 and 2, and I've been vocal about saying, hey man, Star Wars as an IP in terms of video games can be more than action adventure combat games. Like we could have a games of service model with Star Wars, a Division but with a Star Wars skin would be cool. Or we could have strategy games, which I know are coming, or we could have MOBAs, or we could have MMOs and stuff like that. And there's different forms of all of these games coming or have been out, but all of those are old, or we're seeing way later down the line. And I was kind of just disheartened to see this come from Massive. Apparently they had already said that it's going to be a single player open world action adventure game, and I had just missed that update some point along the line. But yeah, seeing this, I was like, man, I kind of wanted I wanted Division. With a Star Wars skin, and we're not getting that. But looking at, and even now looking at it again, I'm like, honestly, this was better than I was saying it was in the reacts, but it's still like, there's still elements that I'm going to pick apart and going to be critical of, because I've seen, games of this ilk before, and this one just looks a little prettier and has the Star Wars IP attached to it. So like, what are we really getting out of here,
Maybe not much. Wait and see.
wait and see. Connor, that is going to be it in terms of talking about the Ubisoft thing, which has eaten up a lot of our conversation here. So we're going to breeze through the Capcom stuff real quick just to say it doesn't seem like, there's not a lot to say here.
Most of what was said during this showcase was on Ghost Trick and on
Ace Attorney?
I'm blanking on the other one. Not even Ace Attorney, Exoprimal. A lot of the focus was put on Exoprimal more than the others. But in Ghost Trick also we were, getting some more stuff. Other than that, it was basically just the same exact thing that we saw earlier in the, honestly, I can't even remember. Was it
SGF,
Xbox,
Xbox, one of the, PlayStation. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that they had opened I didn't watch the full showcase. I had started watching y'all's reacts and then I turned it off. And they started with Path of the Goddess with the exact same trailer that we got from Xbox, I think. And then they showed us Pragmata again and just delayed that into, who knows when. Ghost Trick never appealed to me. A new Ace Attorney collection's coming. Cool for Ace Attorney fans. How did Exoprimal look? Because this is a game when announced, I was like, this game looks rough, but it looks like it could be fun. So how did Exoprimal look now?
It's still looking like it could be fun, but also it's always that area where I'm like, okay, well, this could just be this janky, weird game. I wanted to add it to my fantasy critic, but each time I was like, I don't know if this game's going to be good or not.
It's going to be fun with the jank, though, right? The jank is going to make it fun.
If it works, because the problem is that it is requiring an online connection, which if something goes wrong there, it's just, you're screwed. But it was basically just like story stuff that we didn't need to hear about because they didn't draw you in. So it's stuff you would find out if you were only interested in it. If you want to get Exoprimal, this wouldn't have sold you on it. The basis of what it is, dinosaurs coming through interdimensional portals. If you're on for that, you don't need to see anything else. And yet they were talking about things like that, new suits. And I'm just, I don't even know how it plays. So I can't get excited for new suits that you're unveiling when I don't even know how the first suits feel. And the demo that came out fairly recently seemed to be good, but I didn't play it. So I can't even comment on that.
Was there anything cool for Dragon's Dogma 2?
It was literally just slow breakdown of you can crawl on enemies, in the first Dragon's Dogma. Dope. You have two new. It is cool. It is a cool element of the original Dogma because you get on them and stab them, giant monsters.
Oh, it's very Shadow of the Colossus or?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But a lot more fast paced. It's what's good about Dragon's Dogma, but it's not something unique. We know what it is. If you play Dragon's Dogma, which you're most likely already excited for 2, you're like, yep, that was in the first one. Oh, yep. You have your companions that are AI controlled. That's a cool system, but it's the same thing it was everything that we'd known from Dragon's Dogma and everything that we'd seen in the trailers without much expounding upon things. And it was just like, why'd they do it this way? Couldn't you have shown us more unique gameplay? Show us more in-depth system mechanics? I understand if you don't have those ready to show, but they didn't have anything else interesting to show other than what we've already seen. So it was just, I'm excited for the game. And that's not changed. That's probably never going to change, but this didn't give me anything new to chew on.
There we go. Moving on to our final story of the day. Finally, an hour in. It's rare where the news and the Gamescast part lasts this long. Usually by now we're well into a review. But no review today, so we decided to take our time and talk as much as we want about these gameplay demos. Final topic of the day, my final penny. This is coming from GameSpot. Eddie Makuch. Ooh, that didn't sound right. Sorry, Eddie. Unannounced Xbox film / TV adaptations hinted at by Studio Head. Xbox Game Studios boss Matt Booty has teased that Microsoft has additional film / TV projects based on its franchise in the works beyond those that have been announced. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Booty listed off an upcoming projects like Season 2 of the Halo TV series, the Minecraft movie with Jason Momoa, and the Gears of War film from Dune writer John Spates. Microsoft's Fallout series is also getting a TV show from Westworld's creators. But beyond that, Booty said, quote, "There are some things that we've got going on as well that I can't, okay, this is a live quote, so hold on. Booty said, quote, "There are some things that we've got going on as well that I can't, they're not public yet, but there's a lot there." Booty's comments come in response to a question about if Microsoft can make a film or TV adaptation of Starfield. Booty said he had nothing to announce, but that in general, Xbox needs to make great games first. Quote, the thing for us that's important, and I think what our game teams would say, is that you have to go prove out the games first before you can go explore movies and TV, right? He said. Booty also pointed out how making games and creating film and TV are quite different because with games, a lot of, quote, iteration, end quote, takes place at the end. A film or TV script, meanwhile, is usually locked down prior to shooting. Quote, games are very different in that we have to build so much before we even know what we've got and before we can start iterating. And so I think our teams just want to make sure that first and foremost, we've built a great game and we've found something that resonates with game players, he said. And then that gives us permission to go and explore, does that IP or is that franchise capable of going on to be a film or TV show?
Yeah. This reminds me of those times. Remember when the Xbox One was revealed and they're like, this is going to be showing TV. They had that big focus on TV and film. This is just that continuation. They really have the mind of wanting this kind of stuff.
Always kind of scary whenever you hear Xbox and TV in the same sentence again. But of course, that was selling a console. This is selling IPs. And it's just a thing of like, hey, we are focused on the game first. Franchising it out to other forms of medium can come later. And I mean, look what is mentioned here. Halo TV series season 2. Halo 1 or Halo season 1 was not, well respected. So let's see if we actually get the season 2 or if we get anything past the season 2, maybe they learn from their mistakes and show us something better going forward. Who knows? A Minecraft movie with Jason Momoa. Sure, man. Lego movie worked. Mario movie worked. The Sonic movies worked. I could see in a way that how Minecraft works. That kind of makes sense.
He's a guy who we recently saw Fast Furious 10, whatever the stupid name is nowadays.
Fast X, Connor.
Fast X.
Put some respect on the saga, please.
I won't in this regard, because it was a whatever movie. Review aside, Jason Momoa was easily... But Jason Momoa was a good part of that movie. He brought us all to it. So honestly, a Minecraft movie starring with him, now that I've seen that, I'm like, okay, maybe this is a little bit better, more hopeful than I might otherwise have thought before I saw that movie. Because he has some personality to bring.
I imagine it's going to be fully animated movie. Like, I can't imagine it's going to be live action. But, the Lego movie has great energy to it. The Mario movie, Connor, I don't think did you see the Mario movie?
No, I did not, actually.
Oh, you should have. It's a fun time. Well, maybe wait now. But, it's a fun time. And, Chris Pratt in that movie is fun. I do like him in that movie. And so I could very easily see the energy that I've seen in Jason Momoa performances translating very well into a Minecraft movie and all that. And we've seen attempts at storytelling in Minecraft before with the Telltale series, Minecraft Dungeons, Minecraft Legends. There's a world to explore here. So I'm open to something like that. Gears of War film from Dune writer John Spates. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Gears of War is an IP that you can explore.
It is.
It's just a matter of like, can you make that interesting in terms of a movie? We'll find out.
Yeah, they don't always. Adaptations are not always the best things. Maybe we don't need them. Ever thought about that, Tavin? We just don't need them.
I mean, yeah, but like that's not nearly as fun as having them. Having them's way more fun, Connor.
I guess it is more fun. Waste of money, fun.
I mean, I like seeing when things are working. I like seeing them work, and I think we're in an age now where video game adaptations are not dead on arrival. You've got many examples of them working now: Sonic movies, Mario movies, The Last of Us, to a smaller degree, Uncharted. Yeah, I'm open to all of these things, but as Matt Booty says, hey, make the games first. Great games come first. And I think that as long as that remains Xbox's focus, I see great success in the future of Xbox. The present of Xbox, however, as we've talked about today and previously, is a bit of a question. We'll see, and hopefully Starfield is the first bit that turns all of this around.
Yeah, we'll see.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for your 2 Penny Gamescast. Thank you so much for watching and listening along with us. Remember, you can get this show every Monday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Just search the 2 Penny Gamescast. Until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye. See you later.